10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello everyone, welcome. Thank you for being here with us. It is my first live that I do in English, the first content I present in English on this channel. I usually present my content in Arabic. I'll just welcome you all and thank you, and welcome my dear friend Hani, who's here with me tonight. Hi Hani.
Hey Neveen, how are you?
Good, thank you, and thank you for being here with me. The reason that I've decided to present this content in English is that it's really a message to the English-speaking world, to the Western world. It's a message I'm going to direct to our second home, Australia. Hani and I are Egyptian-born Australians. And this message we wanted to direct to our Australian friends and, country. Sorry, I'm used to speaking in Arabic. Can you believe? Can you believe I got so used to speaking in Arabic when I'm on YouTube, even though my daily life I speak in English all the time. So this is a message that we want to direct to you as Australians. The reason we thought about this was the news that there was a British YouTuber, his name is Ali Dawah, who is planning to visit Australia. We don't know when yet because of COVID-19 has impacted on the visit dates. So there's been a little bit of debate whether he should be allowed to come here, whether we should actually ask for him to be banned from coming here. There's another Australian YouTuber, Harris Sultan from Pakistan. He's a Pakistani Australian. And he had a petition actually started to ban Ali Dawah from coming here. Why, you might ask, is because of Mr. Dawah's controversial, let's say, views on people who want to exercise their right to express their views on religion. So, for example, a Muslim person who decides that he doesn't want to be a Muslim anymore, or she, Mr. Dawah thinks that in Islam that is a good enough reason to kill them. So we're not just talking about, discrimination. We're talking about quite a serious and explicit call for violence, and so, or inciting violence against certain people. You might think, okay, he's some guy saying something, we should just let him say what he wants and he can come here and say what he thinks, and it's okay, he's expressing his views. Now we know that that's how he thinks, and we know who follows him, and we know who's listening to him, and that way we can address what he's saying. The point is, I myself don't think that we can call for him to be banned from coming here because I'm scared that he's going to come here and influence some people to think like him. That's not the point. The point is we need to make a stand. We need to make a stand against inciting violence, inciting hatred that way. We need to say, no, we don't tolerate people who say that people should be killed merely for thinking differently to everyone else. Here in Australia, it's a free society. There's a rule of law. We all respect each other's freedoms and we all respect each other's rights, and it's great. But when you take a look at a community like Egypt or any other Arabic-speaking country, where it's a largely religious society, where the majority are Muslims, and this problem, by the way, is not unique to Muslims in the Middle East. Christians in the Middle East have similarly extremist or fundamentalist views, maybe not to the extent of saying kill those who leave Christianity, but they are intolerant of differences, of different views. And so the reason people like Hani and myself are on YouTube is that we are trying to send a message to our communities back home, back in Egypt, to talk about freedom of expression, because we believe that freedom of expression is a fundamental right. It's a very important right. If you can't express your views freely, you won't think of something different. You won't think anymore. If you can't express your thoughts, you won't have an incentive to think. And if you don't have an incentive to think, you won't be able to create, to achieve, to advance. Even scientific advancement needs the ability to be creative, the ability to think outside the box. And to be able to think outside the box, you need a free environment to express yourself and to be different if that's what you wish to be. And so we think it's very important for people back where we come from to appreciate the importance of freedom of expression. The views that people like Ali Dawah, and this is not just about Ali Dawah, this is not just about his visit to Australia, this is bigger than that for us. People like him and the views that he's expressing actually put people's lives in danger back home. These views are there back home. People say that openly back home as well. And that's what we're trying to combat. We are trying to defend people's right to be different, to leave a religion if that's what they wish to do, to be openly gay if that's what they wish to be. If they don't want to live in the dark forever, too afraid to say that they're gay, too afraid to say that they left religion, too afraid to say that, well, they have questions about religion. Rights that we take for granted here. We really take it for granted here. It was very clear also earlier this month with No Hijab Day, the famous No Hijab Day, World Hijab Day is the hashtag, the famous hashtag. And it's great for the Western world to defend a woman's right to cover if that's what she wants to do. And I don't mean to belittle that right at all, or to take away from any woman's right to cover her hair or to dress as she wishes. But what really hurts me is that back home, there are millions of women who are forced to cover, who don't have the right to uncover. And in order to have the right to cover, you need to be allowed to say, no, I don't want to wear a hijab if I don't want to. If you don't have the right to say no to something, then you really don't have the right to say yes to it, because you're saying yes because you have to. And yeah, in Egypt, for example, there is no one going around saying you need to cover up, you're forced to, otherwise we'll lock you up or something. It's not like that. But there are indirect pressures put on women to wear the veil. It's gotten so bad that, you know, my Muslim friends who are not wearing the veil get told, well, why aren't you wearing it? Do you just want to look like the Christians? So it's become more of a political symbol. It's become more of a symbol of division. This is what we know. This is how we know who's Muslim and who's not. And so many women are forced to wear it because society expects them to wear it. Their families expect them to wear it, even though no one is explicitly saying, no, you have to, otherwise, you know, you can't leave the house. But that's the expectation, and that puts pressure on them, and it forces them to wear it. So when we here in the West defend women's right here in a Western society to wear the veil, that's all great, and that's fantastic, and we should be doing that. But you know what? It is a right that is protected by law here. And even if some idiot goes around, you know, harassing women who are wearing the veil, she can ask for that person to be punished, and they'll be punished by law for harassing her. She has a right that's protected, and not only by law, but by the society itself. Yes, there are some people who have extremist views, anti-Muslim views, but the majority of people in Western societies will respect differences and will respect people's right to dress as they wish. And so I feel like we maybe have gone off the rails a bit, defending freedom of expression where it really is hate speech and inciting hatred and violence. Defending a woman's right to wear the veil, and that's great. I have no problem with that. But I wish we would pay as much attention to the women who don't have the right to say no, to people who don't have the right to express how different they are. So that's basically why we wanted to say this tonight, and to say this to people who live here in the West, whether it's in Australia or any other English-speaking country or any other country, who are listening to us, who don't maybe fully appreciate how bad it is in communities where people don't have the rights we take for granted. So, Hanny, what are your thoughts on that? And after you speak to us about what you think, maybe we'll show a little bit of the video that Mr. Ali Dawah made, where he expresses his views on people who leave Islam.
Thanks, Neveen. Obviously, his surname is sort of been adopted because Dawah in Arabic means invitation to faith. So much for a peaceful invitation. It is. It's really funny. This situation is quite complex. We've been talking about it on the phone yesterday, and it's quite complex because it's two faceted, and it depends on the situation, and that's why we call it cultural perspective, because it does differ from one culture to another. It should be uniform, it should be universal, but to be realistic, you got to sort of observe the nuances of the cultural differences. And the problem here, we've got two situations. We've got the situation in Australia, and I'm going to have to call a spade here and talk about the left. I'm not going to be derogatory and say the regressive left, but where the left has gone off the rail in the last couple of decades in terms of, well, Muslim is a minority religion. It's a brown color religion, and therefore they should be given some more advantages and benefits. I am really against that, and you got to make a differentiation between criticizing a doctrine and criticizing the people who hold the doctrine to be true. So it's very, very important. But in Australia here, you get all the newer generation who I understand they want to have a bit of social cohesion, people from different cultures be respected for who they are. But they've taken that particular creed into a next level because they don't understand the background of things. And I'm a person of definitions. So when we talk, let's say, about the hijab, or let's talk about this guy who was supposed to be coming to Australia. They reckon he's got, even though he's got maybe something negative to say, let him say it and let people decide that is negative. Let opinions fall by the sword. The market of ideas and opinions. It's an idea. It's not a good one, but let it fail on its own merits. The problem is, this is not a person who is talking about whether I want my faith to prevail in the world, and that's like a nice wish. He's got a method and he's got mechanism to achieve that particular goal, and that goal is filled with violence and filled with taking hostage of other people's freedoms, and that is so important. So there is a doctrine in Islam, and if you're an apostate or somebody who leaves Islam, you're supposed to be killed, and that is not on. Obviously, that's an incitement of violence, and it's punishable by law here in Australia. So I wish, before they start jumping into the defense of minority ideas or minority opinions, they would actually understand the consequences and the repercussions of such ideas and such opinions. That's on the Western side, but we sort of flip the coin here and go to countries where freedom of expression is kind of privilege. People are spending most of their time actually trying to look for shelter, food, and necessary biological needs. So to them, expression of opinions is something a bit sort of you know, it's a leisure time. It's for those. And I'm looking at some of the comments that are talking about Egyptian younger generations now have started to take off the veil and go out and go to nightclubs. But that's probably in Cairo. That's probably in the richer families and cities. We're talking about villages. We're talking about Upper Egypt, where ignorance and poverty prevail to a large degree. And the only way a girl could protect herself is by covering up quite nicely and quite fully. So it's not a choice, really. So I feel sorry, because I understand it's a dilemma. If the girl chooses to be really free and expresses herself and takes off the veil, she could be harassed. So you're almost forced to do it to protect yourself, and probably at home you take it off, or among your friends, and where you feel comfortable and safe. So you end up living a double life. We don't want that. We want obviously a generation where this sort of thing is gone. People understand, and people need to understand why the veil is ordained by Islam. That is so important. You know, this we're talking about a situation here where the women are conceived to be just meat, and men are just supposed to be predators who are always, seeking that sort of thrill. It's almost an insult for both sexes. I refuse that, and I'm sure you refuse that, Neveen. And I'll let you have a word and maybe display that video.
Thanks, Hani. Actually, before we see the video, I want to comment on what you said, and on the comment in the chat by our friend Sharif. Yes, in some areas, women dress freely, but like you said, it just depends on the economic, where you are. You're a middle class, high class, a rich family, people who don't really live in a tight-knit community that is very much watching each other, and people do have an expectation that you will cover up. It's not only that you have to contend with as a woman in Egypt. There has been a, let's say, maybe in the last 10 or 15 years, more and more we're hearing imams and sheikhs and people who are, the men of the cloth in Islam, so to speak, speaking about how a woman who doesn't cover up is actually inviting men to harass her, to follow her around, she's basically asking for their attention. It's escalating so much that it's now become accepted amongst a lot of young people that the way a woman dresses, is the main reason why she gets harassed. Sexual harassment has become, what was she wearing? Which is something we don't accept even as a question here. If a woman gets harassed or assaulted, you don't even ask that question, because it's irrelevant. But in a society like Egypt, where women get harassed, it's one of the highest, unfortunately, I'm sorry to say, one of the highest rates of sexual harassment. It's quite normal for people to say, what was she wearing? And it's become normal for sheikhs and like Abdullah Rushdie, for example, who said, a woman who doesn't cover her hair is basically, she's provoking my masculinity, he said in the tweet. And so when you're dealing with something like that, for me to look at that and then to look at us here in the West saying World Hijab Day to protect a woman's right to wear the veil, a right that is protected by law and that is respected by society to a large degree, I can't help but feel a little bit like this is not fair. It's not right. I'm all for a woman's right to wear the veil in a Western country, not a problem. But it really hurts that there are women who don't want to and they can't back home. It really hurts that a person wants to leave their religion for whatever reason or wants to criticize religion. The thing, I've got maybe about 5 or 6 videos on this channel just explaining what freedom of expression is, because it is so misconstrued we've all seen it. We've all seen it with the cartoons. We've all seen what happened in France a couple of months ago. To try to explain to people that, yes, others have the right to criticize your ideas. It's an uphill battle that we're fighting here. And I couldn't help but see, you know, how funny it is that we're here talking about Ali Dawah's saying, oh, you know, people who leave the religion must be killed. And we're still debating, oh, should he be able to say that? Should we be able to? I just feel like, you know, it's appalling. It's appalling that he's even able to say that from the heart of England. And he can say it freely, where so many of our friends can, you know, write something on Facebook and have their account banned for months because they criticized Islam, for example. And that happens. So let's see a little bit of what he said in the video. لو سمحت يا شبح تشغلين الفيديو.
Religion, there's a reason to it. Yeah, there's a reason why there's a capital punishment, because people like you, little weaklings, who leave their religion and cause corruption in the land by spreading it, the capital punishment in Islamic law will be applied to you. We have no doubt, and we're proud of that. Yeah, not individuals going and doing it themselves like idiots. Yeah, no, under an Amir, it is done. Yes, and we, you know what, we watch.
Okay, that's enough. Thank you. So yeah, I mean, he's saying that, and the thing that I know will be said is, well, he's interpreting Islam wrong, and Islam doesn't actually call for that, and all that stuff. And what I always say is, it's really not my concern whether what he's saying is a misinterpretation of Islamic teachings. That's not my issue here. This is more of a luxury. To be able to sit here and discuss that, that'd be a luxury, because people are actually living in fear of their lives in some communities because of that. Whether it's the right interpretation or a misinterpretation doesn't make a difference to someone who's too afraid to tell their own family that they want to leave this religion, or they don't believe anymore, or they want to become an atheist or a Christian or whatever, or worship, I don't know, the rock outside their house. They are too afraid to just say that to their own family, to the closest people around them, because they fear, fair enough, not everyone gets killed for leaving the religion, but a lot of people fear being an outcast. That's a real danger. The closest people in your life can abandon you, can not want to have anything to do with you because you've changed your ideas. And so for him to say that, whether it's the right interpretation or a misinterpretation, it really doesn't make a difference to people who are living there, because they are suffering because of these views. They are really suffering because of views like that. When he was speaking there, you noticed he was saying, you little weaklings, he's really putting down someone just because they dared say, well, I don't believe in this faith anymore, and I have a problem with it. I have a moral problem with it, or I see that it contradicts science or logic. And so to put someone down like that even is unacceptable. And that's what I think we need to make a stand against. It's not that he's going to come out here and convert people. And you know what he's saying on YouTube anyway, and everyone's hearing it. So the idea is that we have to say to him, as a community, say, we don't tolerate what you're saying. We are actually here to defend the rights of the people who might be harmed by what you're saying. He's proud of what he's saying, and I can't believe that someone can sit there and say, yeah, you'd be killed, and I'm proud of that. It's just gone beyond ridiculous, to be honest. What do you think, Hani?
No, I do agree. It's very concerning at the moment with what's going on, and really this sort of thing needs to be blocked, because you know, a lot of people have been sort of disputing this. It's happening right now in the impeachment of the former president of the United States, where his lawyers are actually trying to invoke freedom of speech as a possible defense, that people can choose to do whatever they want to do. But obviously he incited that through his speeches, and it's quite clear. And now he's been persecuted for that particular action. So when you incite violence, and when these actions sort of affect people's lives, these are punishable by law. This guy is explicitly, I mean, what else? This is evidence. UK has been a very strange place for a number of years now, because I'm not sure if you know, Neveen, but has been the refuge for the Muslim Brotherhood. And there's the Anjam Chowdhury, the Pakistani dude who's says things that will make you sort of shocked, and it's been tolerated under freedom of expression and things like that, and protecting minorities. And it is time for people from within the faith, those reasonable voices within the faith, to start criticizing from within. If you, a Muslim, and really believe that people should not be killed for their faith, whatever they choose, and if you believe in the Quranic verses before the migration, and you want to invoke the no compulsion in religion, then that should be a very nice interpretation. Please go for it, and make yourself loud and clear. The problem, this is not really happening. They stay mute and silent when it comes to this sort of thing, and witness the consequences, and then as soon as something happens, they'll start saying, oh, well, that is not really what we believe. The problem is that view he presented is the Sunni Muslim Islam. It's not in the Quran, but that particular decrees in the Hadith, and it's quite acknowledged. So a lot of Sunni Muslim and Salafis will actually will take that as an authenticated version of Islam. Obviously, all the new ones, Muslims, newer generation, the Quran only. They have the Sufi Muslims. They have a different type of interpretation, but unfortunately, they're not very effective. They need to be as much as vocal as us religious. It's blocking him for coming to Australia is quite reasonable. I think it's not a breach against the expression of freedom of expression. I think blocking him is to stop possible murders and actions that could actually be directed towards Muslims. Imagine, Neveen, this person comes here, start talking this sort of nonsense, inciting the right wing. And you know what happened to the right-wing movement in New Zealand at some point when things got really bad? End up killing these innocent people who were praying. And I was shocked looking at the footages. I just hated myself for a minute. I couldn't believe that this was humanity. I'm an atheist, and I looking at that, it just shocked me to my core. So we don't want extremes from both sides, the right or the left. I think logic needs to start prevailing. Being an extreme right or extreme left, or having groupage of ideas that you have to belong to because you belong to a certain political party or religion, these days are over. You need to make decisions based on every decision, every situation independently. Don't be a sheep. Start thinking for yourself. So I hope this message sort of, comes home.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you for that. And it's sad, really. It's sad that it's not really that the way we look at things are different. It's not because we don't understand what's going on or anything here in Australia. What we wanted to say is perhaps we need to think more carefully about who we allow to take center stage and to speak to young people. It's not that I'm not saying that the Australian community is naive or anything, but there are certain, like you said in your first segment, yes, there are nuances to every culture that you might not be aware of, and you need to take that into consideration. It's not just that it would incite the extreme right. It might also put certain Muslim people in danger here from their own families. You know, this guy coming out here and spreading ideas that, yeah, you know, Islam says that you kill someone for abandoning their religion. Well, there might be Muslim young people here who are questioning their religion or have a problem with whatever issue in their religion. And it might, yeah, it might make their families think, or their friends think, that, well, they don't have the right to live. Even he does say, he does sort of put a non-disclosure, what do they call it, the little fine print at the end of his argument, where he says, oh, it's not
A
to
disclaimer.
be a disclaimer. Yeah. Sorry, the word has completely escaped me. A disclaimer that, oh, you know, it's not anyone who would do that. It'd have to be the emir, or the you know, the caretaker of the community, who would sentence someone to death. But you and I come from Egypt, and in Egypt in the 80s, there was a famous, really, you know, great intellectual called Farag Fouda. And this man was a great thinker, and he wanted to tell everyone about secularism and how we need to be a secular society to be a just society, and that we need to get away from this adherence or religion sort of poking its nose into jurisprudence and the way we even rule the society. And he was killed. He was assassinated because some sheikh said that, oh, well, this guy's a kafir, an infidel. And some simple guy off the street thought, okay, this is Mr. Farag Fouda there, great man. His writings are great, and I really wish that he had continued on his journey, because he was doing great work. He debated well-known Islamic personalities in Egypt in his time, and he was amazing. And when you look at him and listen to him in his debates, the way he thought, the way he expressed himself, very calmly, without any anger, or without any you know, unnecessary sort of heated argument or heated comments. He was just great, and someone like him could have really made a difference. But he was assassinated because some simple guy heard the sheikh say, this is an infidel, and an infidel is to be killed. Well, do you know what? I'm going to get my gun and shoot him. And that's what he did. And during the trial of the person who killed him, the judge asked the person, why did you kill him? And he said, well, because he's an infidel. And our sheikh said that he's an infidel. And, you know, he wrote all this stuff that's against Islam. And the judge said, well, what did he write that you think is against Islam? And he said, well, I don't know. I don't even read and write. And so this is what you can do when you spread messages like that. You can incite people who have no idea even what you're saying to go out and do harm. This is what can happen. This is dangerous. This is people's lives we're talking about. And so when we say we need to take a stand, you know, we're not over exaggerating or anything. And I encourage people, I'll put the link to Harris Sultan's petition in the description box, so that if you can go on, say what you think, say that, no, I refuse to give a platform to this person to speak like that in my country. This is disrespectful to the values that we believe in as a society, that the values that have, you know, helped us be accepting of all these nationalities and religions and backgrounds, who live harmoniously to a great extent in this community. And we really appreciate that. And we don't want to spread messages of hatred. We don't want to give a platform to someone like that to spout their poisons. So yeah, and like I said, I don't know when the visit's going to be, because I looked at the website yesterday and it sort of said it's open-ended, the visit till 31st of December 2021. I think because of the COVID restrictions, they don't know when he can come out here. And it's not just about him. Let me just say this again. It's not just about him. I think we as a society need to be aware that when we defend certain freedoms, that we take into account there are other communities who are not as lucky as we are. We take these freedoms for granted. They don't even understand what these freedoms are. So many people back home still don't really grasp what is the freedom of expression. What does that mean? I'm not generalizing. I'm not saying everyone back in Egypt don't understand. No, we have great friends who are, great minds, and their contribution is amazing, and they do great work on YouTube and on social media in general to raise awareness in Egypt and in other Arabic-speaking countries. We have friends from Iraq, from Syria, from Libya, Tunisia, Morocco, people who I really respect, and who I have so much respect for them because they are saying what they're saying from the heart of those communities. Hani and I are lucky to be out here. I've been here for 30 years, so I didn't have as much to struggle with to be able to express myself. I came here and I was free to be who I am, and I really value that and respect that, and I wish that the people back home have that. And when I say back home, I don't mean that Australia is not my home. I consider both to be my home equally. And so really we need to be careful. We need to be more aware of the struggle other communities are having in their fight for freedom, just to be able to express the simplest thing, which is their thoughts. We all have a need to express ourselves, and as long as we don't call for hatred or violence against anyone, we should be able to be afforded that right. Thank you, Hani. Did you have any last words before we go?
No, just very quick couple of words. I think I don't want to be too harsh on the people in Egypt because they have not practiced too much freedom of expression. So I don't want to be too harsh. Obviously, they're going to get it wrong because look at us here in Australia. We've had this privilege for quite some time, and we're still getting it wrong. So imagine those rusty folks, sort of up there in Egypt. It's I don't blame them. They haven't had much practice, so maybe let's just give them a glimmer of hope that they will get it one day, so they can actually, because it's the most important value. That and truth and freedom together are so important.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have hope. I have high hopes for people back in our Arabic-speaking countries. Change will happen. You can't really stand in the way of change, and the younger generation perhaps will see better days than we have seen, or what people before us have seen. So this is our contribution to the change, and we hope that it makes a difference. And thank you very much for your time, Hani, and thank you for your time, everyone. And we're going to pick up again in about 5-10 minutes in an Arabic live. So we'll see you soon. Thanks, everyone. Good night.